Listen up, you mob. We are part of the Indigenous Carbon Industry Network, a network of Indigenous land and sea groups across Australia with an interest in carbon markets. We run our own carbon projects on our country. We create carbon credits from these projects. These carbon credits are called Australian Carbon Credit Units, or ACCUs. They can then be sold on carbon market. We want to share some information with you about your rights, interests in carbon, and how you can protect them. This is important because a carbon project can be a very long commitment, and if you are properly informed, you can bring about good benefits for your mob and your country.
There are a lot of different companies working in the carbon industry. Sometimes you may be approached by a carbon company about an idea to create a project on your country. A company might ask your mob to agree to support a carbon project on your country. When this happens, you should always seek legal advice and ask your local rep body for help before agreeing to anything.
So under international law, Indigenous people have a right to be asked for a free, prior and informed consent for a new project or a development on their country. This means that you need to be fully informed before you make a decision, and that a company or a person can't put pressure on you to agree if you don't want to. So consent means you have a right to say yes or no.
It's important for you to understand the two main rights that are written into Australian law through the Carbon Farming Initiative Act. The first is legal right. This means the company or person with the right to register and own the carbon project. This usually includes mob with recognised land rights or freehold land. Legal right also means having the right to undertake the carbon project activities and the right to own ACCUs or carbon credits from the project. Other companies or people can own a carbon project, but they need to first make a proper agreement with the company or person who holds the legal right. This includes a proper agreement with traditional owners for access to or use of land rights land. The second right is the eligible interest holder consent right. This means landholders with an eligible interest who are required to provide their consent or say yes or no to a carbon project. This can include native title holders and also other parties such as banks that hold a mortgage over land. Sometimes it could be a Crown Land Minister or a government agency who have rights to the land as well. Whether or not you have a legally recognised eligible interest holder consent right will depend on the land tenure. Across Australia, over 50% of the land mass has some form of recognised Indigenous land tenure. Under the ACCU scheme laws, eligible interest holder consents are required for a person to receive carbon credits, or ACCUs. It's good practice and consistent with free and prior informed consent to obtain eligible interest holder consents before a carbon project is registered. It's the role of the Clean Energy Regulator to check that a carbon project has followed all the rules and the consent requirements before a person can receive carbon credits.
The ICIN advocates for best practice recognition of Indigenous rights and interest. This is further recognised in the Carbon Market Institute's Code of Conduct for the industry. Best practice engagement principles are that Indigenous groups impacted by a proposed carbon project on their country should always be informed and consulted, regardless of their legally recognised tenure. After all, it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Having clear agreements in place before a carbon project is registered will avoid the risk of conflict and make sure that everyone is well informed and supported to participate in the project. Also, it is important to understand that the company that registers the carbon project becomes the carbon project proponent. This means they have control over information about the carbon project, have to bear the risks and costs associated with the project, and also have control over the benefits of the project.
A carbon project that avoids emissions that would have otherwise occurred is called an emissions avoidance project. This is usually a shorter term commitment. A carbon project that stores carbon in the land through tree planting or avoiding hot fires to store carbon in plants that are unburnt is called a sequestration carbon project. These projects are a very long commitment, usually of 25 or 100 years. So before you make any agreement, please get informed. Seek assistance from your local regional land council or representative body. Visit the Clean Energy Regulator website for information about the rules and requirements for Australian Carbon Credit Unit or ACCU projects. Visit the Indigenous Carbon Industry Network website to access helpful guides to agreement making for Indigenous landholders. resources supporting the First Nations Carbon Farming Outreach Project, and the Indigenous Carbon Project Guide. Visit the CMI Code of Conduct website.
The Indigenous Carbon Industry Network has partnered with the Australian Government to develop and deliver carbon farming outreach training and resources for First Nations land managers. The Indigenous Carbon Industry Network also supports First Nations groups to have their say on the Australian Carbon Credit Unit scheme. For more information, sign up to receive our updates at www.icin.org.au.